Hey guys, I realized I have never actually done a build breakdown, so might as well just do one now. Over the last couple of years, people have asked me like a lot of details about the car and just all these things, and as I've been changing, and I just figured I'd just do it as it is now. If you guys have any questions, just, ask me, but let's get to it. This is my 2008 Nissan 350Z. It's HR. I had originally gotten it because I wanted to get into drift. I wasn't ready for it yet. I just knew that a 350 was a good platform to be able to do a lot of different things, and at the time I was working as a nurse and just using it as my daily until had a very bad accident on the freeway, and then it was a salvage title after that, and I just bought it back, and then that's when I started to do stuff on the track. I started with drifting. Some of the stuff is like drift stuff still. That's where Sonia slides came from. See, you get it? And then I ended up moving into road course, and that just changed my entire trajectory of like what I was gonna do with car stuff. After that, I just wanted to do road course. With one track day under my belt, I was like, how do I compete? And that was in 2018. I just started looking up what I needed to, and I started to modify the car and do what I need to do to get it ready for competition. I did this thing called Nissan Challenge in 2019, and that was my first competition of like any sort. I had never done anything like that in my entire life and never competed in anything ever, and let alone I had less than one handful of track days. I started to like modify the car more and more, but there was always a purpose and a reason for it. I was more of the function over form girl. I didn't care too much about looks, but eventually that came over time. HR, this has the original engine in it, which is a VQ HR. It has over 200,000 miles on it. It's the original one. I've never cracked it open, and I'm just kind of waiting for it to go before changing it out. The reason why I had never changed it to anything else was because the organization and like the class that we were in wasn't a really heavy modified class, so we couldn't change out power band or anything like that, so we just kept with the HR. I do have a couple things that I have done. I have cold air intakes and stuff, but the front bumper is V2. It's a fiberglass bumper. I try to get as much weight as I could off it. Back in the day, I had a KBD bumper, and that helped, but it's so freaking heavy. And then we have the quick releases, so we can take off the bumper easily at any point. Really, you only need one. You don't need two, but two just in case. Aero latches under the hood. We have two still in cold air intakes, which will be changed out soon. And we have the ISR headers, long tube headers. We have a couple of chase bay things here and there, just reservoirs pretty much for the power steering. And then we also run the Fortune Auto two-way Pro Dreadnoughts, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But the other thing is I have a Coilovers radiator with a Nismo thermostat. I have to say, I used to go and track at Willow where it was ambient temps would be over 105, so it'd be like 110, sometimes 112. With the Coilovers radiator, I run water and water wetter, and the Nismo thermostat, I have not overheated once. I've had this setup in the car since 2019. Telling you, that's the way to go. I have the Z1 oil cooler. I'm not gonna lie, I can't remember if it's the 19. And then I do also have a power steering cooler, which I put in the car back in 2019, never have had to change. The only reason I have a new oil cooler is because we had a rock chip to the face of the last one, and it went to smithereens. So I do run an anti-gravity battery. It's much lighter, and I have it hooked up to battery tender. And then the thing that I like the most is because if you start messing with your Z, you'll realize that there's a power drain somewhere, and for whatever reason you go through batteries a lot. And I like this guy because it has a little quick starter on it. If the battery dies, all I have to do is just press this for a period of time, and it has like this built-in just kind of starter. It ends up just kind of starting it itself, and it has saved me so many times. I'm not even sponsored, by the way. Just saying that these batteries are really, really good. The front bumper is a V2 bumper, like I said, fiberglass. And then when it comes to the Aero, I have this splitter. It's an RS Future splitter. We are very deliberate on, what sizing and what we wanted for it, because most classes can only run the splitter 3 to 5 inches off from where the front bumper lands. And so I didn't really know where I was gonna run the car, so I just wanted to make sure I was within rules for that. That's kind of the reason why we went with that. There are 2 tunnels for some more air. In terms of how it's mounted, like this is the #1 question I get asked all the time in terms of the splitter, because nobody makes just like a regular kit. You kind of have to piece it together, but there are 3 mounting points for this splitter. I use the Professional Awesome quick release back here, and you just pull this and it'll drop from down there. Second point here is just a safety. I have it just attached here. And the third one is out in the front. I just got these random brackets from, honestly, Amazon. We cut them to size, and then we just put these quick releases on it. So essentially I just take these guys out, drop from the bottom, and then just release from here, and we're good to go. These end plates, these are one-offs. These are customs. They were never made again. They were made specially for me, so really nice. I just want to make sure that I don't ever blow through them, because that's it. They don't make those anymore. The car used to be black, pink, and teal, and so that's kind of where those colors came from. That was from the old livery, and I just kind of kept it on. Bash bar, because I was doing drifty things before, but we kept it on. It just helps with support, and it has saved me quite a bit. We'll keep moving on to the other parts of the car then. So we were running the Falken RT660 Pluses. I actually really like them. We've been running Falkens for quite some time, and I am a Falken driver. I work with them at Gridlife. Can talk about that more in another time, but really like them. We have the TE37s, the SLs. This is the graphite. I know people are always saying like that the TEs are played out, but I don't know. I like them, but also they're borrowed. They're not even technically mine. I'm poor. I can't afford these. They fit really, really well. They're 18s by 10.5 plus 22 or plus 15. Don't quote me. So I run the Z1 R35 brakes. So I used to run, you know, obviously the stock ones. I've had all sorts of different pad configurations. And then I ran the Brembos, which I actually really didn't like. And then we moved over to these R35 front and rear brake kit from Z1. And what it comes with is the R35 brake calipers, the caliper brackets. It comes with the 2-piece rotors, all the hardware and everything else you need. Off the bat, I wasn't sure like how these brakes were gonna work. I also run a Hawk DTC 60 in the front and 30 in the rear. The reason why we went less aggressive, because normally Z's will run DTC 70 in the front and 60 in the rear, but we went less aggressive because the calipers and the brake kit itself was more aggressive. So we wanted to play with that first and kind of move up, but I haven't moved up because it is perfect. Getting the front and the rear together helps in terms of the whole brake bias situation. I know some people have gotten the front R35 and like a less aggressive in the rear, and they've had issues with brake bias. I've never had issues with that. And also I have never triggered ABS with it. Like it brakes like a dream. When I'm doing camera chase car stuff, the braking points are very different than my regular road course stuff. Road course stuff, it's smooth. It's kind of like, you know, I'm working on it, but camera chase car stuff, like I have to punch it sometimes, and it's just less predictable sometimes, a lot harder on the brakes, and they hold up. Obviously you have to have just like a higher temp brake fluid, and you have to change that often, but dude, I really like them. So look into it if you haven't already. Inside the car, there's not a whole lot of stuff. Well, I mean, except for the fact that it's completely gutted. We have a roll cage in here made by GS Works, who is no longer around, off doing other stuff. Maybe, hopefully, we can get him to come back to do car stuff. For now, I have these Sparko seats in here, have Halo, and I do have a passenger seat because we do a lot of ride-alongs. That's what I do primarily with Falken at Gridlife, so I have to have a passenger seat. Right now, we're running these old Team Tech, very weathered harnesses. They're a 5-point harness. And then I run this Jacksmania Racing shifter. It is just a regular H pattern, but it's pretty decent. It's like probably the best short shift that I've ever had. I tried a lot of different ones, and just this is the best one so far. In terms of inside here, I do have oil and water temp. This guy goes to a driver cooling system that I'll talk about later. And then this actually goes to a driver helmet air system that is here, and it attaches to my helmet, and it just pushes in some fresh air for me while I'm driving, so it's not so bad. My steering wheel, that has seen better days. This is literally the original steering wheel. I've never changed it out, and I know I need to. Grip Royal. I just have these custom carbon foot plates, and then with some grip. My handy dandy fire extinguisher, which I really need to go actual fire suppression system. I just haven't needed to yet. And then yeah, I think this is on a quick release. I do have these LRB door cards, which I really like. They have both handles. This is where the actuator is for that, and then a pull handle for me when I'm all strapped in, and then a spot for you to be able to put all the stuff. It just makes it nice and clean and kind of cleans it up. It's super, super light, and you can paint it. You can put vinyl on it. I love those. So LRB is nice. So like I had mentioned earlier, I have the Fortune Two-Way Pros Dreadnought system, and they have the remote reservoir. They have a 24-click rebound and compression that are separate. I really like them so far. I've been running them just since last year, and they've been really cool. In terms of the rear, we ended up getting a longer remote reservoir like tubing, just so I can have more options and availability for when I wanted to be able to mount it. So when you're getting your own two-ways and you're coming up with that and figuring that out, if you don't know exactly where you're going to mount it, having them a little bit longer kind of helps. So this wing is a GT style wing. It's chassis mounted, and it is also a concept from RS Future. This one in specific is a one-off because it has the carbon that's actually infused into the wing itself. It's pretty cool and extremely light. This entire piece is carbon, everything in it. And then the wing stands, not gonna lie, I don't remember where they're from, but they're aluminum as well. So these are nice and light, and then they were fabricated into the actual chassis itself. A couple other things in here is, so I had mentioned driver cooling. It gets really hot in a lot of the spots. Like this car goes across the country, so sometimes it's in like the Midwest, and sometimes it's in California, right? I'm in California, but I can't really stand the heat all that well. And so one of the situations we figured out was using the, just a cooling system. This uses a traditional ice and water. We wanted to be able to change it out very quickly because you have to fill it with ice and water. How we fill it though is, so we have a line that, you know, obviously goes into it. And then this line goes all the way to the front, and then I just hook it up into my suit. It has, you know, like the quick releases. But the way that we fill it up when we're at the track, we had it system into this false window, and then we're able to just fill it with the ice and water. And then when we want to drain it, because obviously once we're done with the session, it just turns all into water, we can drain it out here. We make it easy. So obviously there's nothing in it right now, but because when I'm doing the Falken ride along stuff, sometimes I'm busy trying to strap in the car and the strapping people in. So we need to keep it as quick as possible and be able to change that out. That's a really nice thing. Hopefully I move into Freon soon because I want to be able to not have to deal with the water and ice situation, but that'll be for later. Another one of my favorite things, it's like the most minute thing, but I love it. I change diff fluid about every 3 events. Instead of doing the annoying, like being under the car and pumping it and, you know, filling it that way, we made it so that we fitted it with an AN line, the diff itself where the fill line is, and we fitted it with the AN fitting. It goes all the way here. And so for this guy, I end up having a funnel that has an AN fitting on the attached to the bottom of it. I attach this and I just pour it. And then I go pour it, and it kind of pours a little slowly just depending on what size AN fitting. This is a -8, I believe. We just pour, I walk away, go do something else, pour. Since we've changed out the diff fluid so many times, I know exactly how much goes in it because I also have a Z1 diff cover, which increases the capacity a little bit. So I know exactly how much diff fluid. I just go pour and close it up. The other thing is, like, you know how 350Zs will have the drain overflow where it's just like a random pipe that goes over the diff and just creates this nasty mess? Well, I was tired of seeing that and tired of having that. So I ended up creating overflow that goes into this radium reservoir. It never actually goes into here because it would require it to go all the way up and go here, but at least it keeps my diff clean and everything else clean down there. I just put an AN fitting where that hose normally goes and then just have it run up here. I never have to like replace, there's no diff fluid or anything in here ever because it would take so much to go up that, but it's nice to be able to have that. So for the coilovers, I have a true coilover now in the rear, not the separated system, and I run the Fortune Pro 2-ways, the Dreadnoughts, and it's a 24 click compression, 24 rebound. And in terms of springs, I run the 18 in the front, 9K in the rear. We're probably gonna go up to about an 11. So we're kind of toying around with that. I run the iBox springs. Right now I'm waiting for some 11K, same length and everything. It's just that I wanted to go up and wait and see if that helps settle for the rear of the car. When I was first building the car, there were a lot of things that I didn't care much about form, right? I only cared about function. However, stars are kind of like my big thing. I don't know why, I love them. At the time when I was looking for these gussets, nobody made them except for one country in the UK. So I went and called them. I sourced it and had it imported. It was like stuck in customs. Anyways, they only had one size. So I wanted to implement them. And so you'll see these star gussets throughout the car. That was kind of special to me just because I wanted it to be something different. So in terms of the exhaust, we're running the ISR single exit. I used to run a dual, but moved over to single and sounds slightly better. Power-wise, I don't really think we lost a whole lot there. So I did it for a couple of other things. One, weight reduction. I had an X style before with a dual exit, and one, it was heavier. Two, I felt like I was going through flanges and just like exhaust gaskets all the time. So it was like double. And then three, sounded a little cooler. I went with this one and I'm happy with it. In terms of suspension, we got quite a bit underneath the car. We'll start off with the rear. So I have the GKTECH rear knuckle kit that's on the car. What I really like about those is that it gives you a 40 millimeter drop from the actual knuckle. So that kind of just optimizes like your camber curve and then helps with bump steer. Thing about that though is you have to run it with aftermarket toe arms and camber arms, which is SPL. I have SPL toe arms, SPL camber arms, SPL traction arms. Yeah, the Z has way too many arms. In terms of the diff, I run a wave track, which is the Quaife style. When I was drifting, I ran a 1.5 Nismo and then moved over to the Quaife. I think in the future, I do want to go back to a Nismo or the Cause 1.5 and try it, but we'll see. So for now, we're running that. I also run the SPL subframe collars that go on the subframe itself. It helps kind of correct that in terms of the height and the anti-squat. So look into that if you haven't already. Okay, this isn't quite like a mod. I powder coated a lot of the parts down there. I powder coated the subframes. If the arms weren't powder coated, I made sure to powder coat those. The reason I did that though, not enough people do it. I do it because it was easy to clean and it's easier for me to be able to identify any kind of spills or any kind of messes immediately because I keep everything really clean so that I can just visually see if there's an issue or if there's a drop of anything anywhere, I know immediately where it is. Keep your shit clean, guys. In terms of the front of the car, I do run the Z1 transmission and engine mounts. I run the solid bushings for the lower control arm and the compression arm. Nobody really makes an aftermarket that isn't for drift, so I haven't really messed with that too much. Every bushing on this car is solid, so I hear and feel everything. That's for sure. I eventually was just like throughout the years, I kind of had, you know, I was starting to change things here and there, but then everything that was rubber started to wear down and I finally just changed everything eventually. In terms of the clutch, I run an ACT, I run a 6-puck non-sprung. So it is surprisingly not as aggressive as other 6-puck non-sprung clutches that I've driven. So, and for my little baby legs, I can run it just fine. The first clutch I had on the car was ACT as well, but it was like their street one. And honestly, it lasted, I think, 5 years. The only reason I even had to change it out was because I was going to drop the transmission again. And I was just like, it's probably time. And I just changed it out kind of prematurely, and then went to a more aggressive clutch and flywheel. It's a stock transmission. It's the second transmission because the notorious, you know, 5th gear and then eventually 3rd gear, I got hit with that. So I do have the stock 350Z HR trans on it. It's just the second one now. I still have just a stock ECU with just slashy tune, which I get from Specialty Z. Didn't want to go standalone because I just didn't want to go through the pain and just didn't want to go through all that yet because I didn't need to at that point. I tried to keep the car as simple as I could, just kind of moving forward, and I didn't want to get in over my head. There's another car I'm building, which I will be getting a little bit further into, but this one, I don't know. It was nice the way it is. Well, one, it wasn't appropriate for the class that I was in. I had to keep it stock. And then two, eventually when I moved out of that class, I just kind of wanted to keep it as simple as possible. And if I don't need to do it, I don't want to do it yet. Just like with the engine, eventually when I get to, you know, that place where when it blows up, then I'll start to think about, you know, what power plant should go into the car. Everybody and their mom is LS everything, right? But I don't know, I want to do something different. And so when we do get to that, then I'll probably have to put a standalone in it and go from there. And the trans too will have to go probably. You know, it was my daily driver, and then I started to track it. I started to drift it first, and then I moved it to road course. But in between then, it had actually gone to a couple of TV shows. No, Drive Hard was another show I was on. Okay, that was a different one. I do have over fenders on the car, so they are carbon and they are the +5. They're actually one-offs from a company that I used to work with. They've seen quite a bit of a battle. This one actually fell off the car when we were filming TV show, and Michelle Rodriguez actually picked it up off the floor and was like, here's your fender. It was like in 2 pieces. We just kind of patched it back up and then liveried right over it, boys. Why not? So this is actually the second livery that we've had on the car. The first livery I had on the car, I just designed. I have no business designing livery, but I was getting ready to go to one of the TV shows, which is The Getaway Driver, and I wanted it to be more than just a gray car because that's what color it is underneath. And so the first one was like a pink and purple and teal, and I really wanted to emphasize on like the purple. And then the second one, we needed to change up like the sponsors and how it was, so we just came up with this idea. I'm still getting used to the white. I've never really had like a white car, so I'm not gonna lie, white livery is hard to keep clean. It gets chipped up really fast, especially with what I'm doing. It gets tire marks all over it really, really fast. With the black, you couldn't even tell. And then the other thing too, because we do a lot of camera chase car stuff, so you'll actually see, this is just vinyl in general. This happens with vinyl in general, but you end up getting these marks, and it's not something you can avoid. And if you can avoid them, please message me because I would love to know. But it's pretty much anywhere the suction cups go, they end up ruining the vinyl. I mean, it's camera chase car life, I guess. But yeah, so, all right, well, thanks for watching. If you have any questions whatsoever, just let me know. I'm happy to share all the information that I have, but I guess until the next video.